Pursuit. A criminal strikes and fades quickly back into the shadows of his own dark world. And then the man from Scotland Yard, the famous Inspector Peter Black, and the dangerous, relentless Pursuit. When man hunts man. In just a moment, tonight's story. Now, with Ben Wright starred as the famous Inspector Peter Black of Scotland Yard, we bring you tonight's story, Pursuit and the Asiatic Killer. Any change, Dr. Reed?
No, Inspector. None at all.
I've just been talking to the wife. She thinks you should take him to a hospital.
How can I? It's touch and go. I'd be afraid to move him.
She wants to come in.
No, not now. Too weak. Even the slightest excitement might... Nurse, give me another hypodermic, please.
Yes, Doctor. Here you are, Doctor.
Thank you.
Do you think he was in his right mind?
About saying he was poisoned? From the looks of it, I'd say so.
It's not a natural illness, then. The heart...
Definitely not. The man suddenly falls ill, claims he's been poisoned. You've seen the symptoms before. Look at him now.
Yes.
Well? Nurse, tell Mrs. Callender to come in.
James. He's better, isn't he? He's all right. James? James?
He can't hear you, Mrs. Callender. I'm afraid.
James. James. Doctor, do something.
I'm sorry.
No, don't say that. No, he's all right. James. Oh, James.
James Callender died at 3 in the morning. He had been stricken sometime before midnight. Before going into a coma, he insisted that someone had poisoned him and that his wife knew who had done it. And then he didn't wake up again. It was only a few hours later that Detective Sergeant Moffat telephoned the autopsy report to my office. It was 10 o'clock, a Tuesday morning.
Autopsy report, sir.
All right, let's have it, Moffat.
The doctor was wrong. It wasn't poison.
Oh?
No, sir. The man died of Asiatic cholera.
Asiatic cholera, one of the most severe and fatal diseases known to man. It had killed James Callender, and in his agony he had cried out against a poisoner. If this was true, that a murderer had used cholera germs to commit his crime, then Scotland Yard was searching for a lunatic in possession of a weapon as deadly, if not more so, than the atomic bomb. I took the case to Commissioner Hartnett.
Devilish serious, eh, Black?
I know, sir.
Of course. Man may have been raving.
Well, I thought of that.
But cholera. Good Lord, if something like that got loose again...
No, before we go any further, sir, it might be an idea to phone the Ministry of Health. There may have been a few other cases.
Good. Chief Medical Officer, what's his name?
Oh, Sir Conrad Devon?
Right. Hello, Standard. Get me Sir Conrad Devon at the Ministry of Health, would you? Right. I don't like this.
No.
I don't like it at all. You know anything about the dead man?
No, sir. No, I told you I haven't been back yet because I wanted to wait for the autopsy report.
Yes, quite right, quite right. What was that he said about his wife knowing?
Well, that was just before he became unconscious. He was whispering, "My wife knows. Myra knows. Ask her." That was all he said. He didn't speak after that.
We haven't had a case of this sort for nearly, pretty grim if it's true, you know.
Yes, sir.
I'll have Sir Conrad send over a Ministry of Health man. And for heaven's sake, Bragg, don't let this get out to the newspaper.
Well, no, we won't, sir. At 1 o'clock, the truth of the matter was settled. The Ministry of Health biologists, as well as our own people, put the lid on it. They made several tests, and the results of each told us that James Callender had died of Asiatic cholera. Now it was my job to find out how. I went back to question the bereaved wife. The blinds of the house were drawn, and although the sun was shining brilliantly in the street, the sitting room was somber with the air of death.
I don't know what I can tell you. I don't know what I can say.
Your husband thought he had been poisoned.
But why? No one would...
Well, he also said that you knew who had done it.
How could I know such a thing? How could I?
Well, that's what I should like to know. Do you?
No. Unless...
But go on.
Well, I remember when he first became ill. He had terrible cramps. He said he thought he must have eaten something that poisoned him.
Mm-hmm.
He was in pain, but I don't think he was very worried at the time. Perhaps that's what he meant when he said that I knew.
I see. Well, Mrs. Callender, can you think of anyone who might want to hurt him?
No.
Yeah, according to your doctor's report, Mr. Callender complained of feeling ill the day before he died.
Yes, but he didn't think it was serious. Not poison. It couldn't have been that. Why don't you tell me the truth? How did he die?
I'm afraid I can't tell you that just now, Mrs. Callender.
You think he was murdered?
No, we're not certain. We're trying to find out.
Because he said that someone had poisoned him?
Yes, and because he said that you knew the person.
But I don't. There couldn't be anybody. We're not the sort of people who have enemies.
I see. Well, now, what did your husband do, Mrs. Callender?
He owns a shop. Well, he owned a shop.
What kind of shop?
Cameras, enlargers, you know.
Well, is there someone else who is in business with him?
Yes, his partner, Mr. Denning, but...
Would you give me the shop address, please?
341 Edgware Road.
Thank you. Mrs. Callender, I noticed as I came in the luggage in the hall. Were you planning to go somewhere?
Why, yes.
Oh.
Well, you'll find out anyway, I suppose. James and I were separating. I would have left him 2 days ago if this hadn't happened.
I see.
It was perfectly friendly. I don't think I loved him anymore. But I was very fond of him.
Mrs. Callender, I must ask you not to leave London for a few days, at least until we've made our investigation.
But I've made my plans. Surely you
I
don't...
promise, as soon as we're satisfied, I'll let you know. You'll be free to go wherever you like.
All right.
Now, a medical officer will be calling here in a little while. He'll want to make 1 or 2 simple tests.
Why? I don't...
Please give him your cooperation, Mrs. Callender.
But why? What kind of test?
I'm afraid I can't tell you that just now, but we want to make sure that no one else will die the way that your husband did. We still had no positive proof that James Callender had been murdered. There was only his dying word. So I checked back with the yard before going to the camera shop in the Edgware Road.
There's nothing here, sir. Ministry of Health called a few minutes ago. They haven't got any other reports of cholera up to now.
All right, Margaret. Now, look here. I want you to go out to the Callender place in Salmon Street. I want you to get names and addresses of anyone who may have been in contact with Callender a week before he died. Mrs. Callender should be able to give you the information.
You wanted something, sir?
No, Moffat, but I want to make sure that no one else comes down with cholera. Now, when you get those names, you send them on to the Ministry of Health. They'll have to test them.
Right, sir.
By the way, one of those cameras was here. No, sir, the Leica. Yes, sir, it was lucky, the 3F model. Yes, sir, I will. Goodbye, Doctor. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Chief Inspector Black, Scotland Yard.
Oh, is something the matter?
Yes, sir. Your partner, Mr. Callender.
Calendar? I don't quite...
Haven't you heard, Mr. Denning?
Heard? What?
Well, he died last night.
Good Lord. No. How?
I'm rather surprised that you hadn't heard.
I knew he was ill yesterday. His wife telephoned. I was going to ring up this afternoon. I had no idea. How did he die? What happened?
Oh, we're trying to determine that, Mr. Denning.
You're... Suicide?
Well, we're not sure.
I can't believe it.
Can you tell me anything about him, his state of mind in the past few days?
There's nothing to tell. It was no different.
Well, there's nothing troubling him, possibly. Your business relationship was satisfactory?
Exceedingly.
Finances?
These days, as good as they can be under the circumstances.
Yeah. Did you know about the separation action between Callender and his wife?
Yes.
Did he appear upset about it?
No. No, it was calm and quite deliberate on their part. The most sensible thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Tell me, is Mr. Callender in the habit of frequenting foreign restaurants? Chinese, perhaps?
Not as far as I know. In fact, I'm almost positive that he didn't. Callender liked very simple cooking. I can't understand. I mean, that he's dead. It's a terrible shock to me. How did he die?
I'm sorry, sir. I'm not at liberty to tell you that. Just one more thing. Did Callender confide in you? A mention of an event in his past, let's say?
Don't exactly follow you. Do you mean an event which could have led to this?
Yes.
No. No, I'm sure not. He was a quiet man, lived a sensible life. That's why I...
Yes, I understand. Well, now, I wonder if I may look through his office. Papers, you know?
Of course. We share one at the back. However, Callender has his own desk. Will you come this way, please?
I spent an hour searching through James Callender's papers, and at the end of that time, there wasn't the slightest evidence which could be used as a motive for murder. It began to appear that the dying man's statements were the ravings of delirium, in which case it was an even more frightening job for us, and for the Ministry of Health. One case of Asiatic cholera, although a terrible danger, can be controlled if the case is checked, and we still had no idea of the cause. I sent Denning to the nearest divisional police surgeon for his cholera test, and then I returned to the yard. It wasn't until the next day that we began to learn a little more.
Not much to go on, sir.
I know, Muffet, but one case of cholera like that, it just doesn't make sense. But certainly somebody else must have got it.
I suppose the question of waiting now. See if it turns up again. I got that list from Mrs. Callender. They've all been contacted.
I wonder how many more there are who might have come into the shop. Well, still Denning hasn't got it yet. That's a hope. Hello, yes?
Bragg, Commissioner Hoffner speaking.
Oh, yes, sir.
Would you come in for a moment, please?
Right, sir. I'll be in the commissioner's office.
Yes, sir.
Come in, Bragg. Sit down.
Thank you, sir.
Now, look here. I've got some rather alarming news.
Oh?
Ministry of Health has done a little more work on that case. Cholera, nothing's changed there. But they don't think it's a natural case.
Oh, really?
They're reasonably certain that the dead man ate something, probably about a week ago. The germs were in that something.
Well, yes, sir, but that doesn't mean to say that...
If it was a week ago, the food must have been either eaten in a restaurant or bought at a grocer's. Now, if that's the case, it's almost impossible that one man would come down with cholera and no one else.
Was there any chance of an immunity with others who ate the same food?
I asked the same question. They said with cholera, no. You realize what this means, Black?
I'm afraid so, sir, yes. Somebody used the germs as a poison, administered it to Callender.
Unless another case or two comes along, it's going to be up to us.
Well, the wife must know something, then. And Callender swore that she did.
Go out there again. We've got to make her talk. Yes? Hello.
Afternoon, Commissioner. 999 calls come in, sir.
Well, what's up?
Dr. Reed just rang through. Says he's at the Callender address. Wants us to come over. Something's happened to Mrs. Callender.
Now, the second act of Pursuit and the Asiatic Killer. Commissioner Harkness, Moffat, and I raced to the house in Salmon Street. It was nearly dark when we arrived. Constable took us upstairs, and Dr. Reed was waiting for us outside the bedroom door.
What's happened here?
I don't know exactly. The front door was open. She was lying on the floor in the hall. A nasty wound in her head. I called you and the constable who was passing.
Well, will she be...
Yes, I think so.
How did you happen to be passing, Doctor?
I wanted to look in, see that Mrs. Callender was all right. I told her that I would last night.
I see. May I speak to her?
Yes, I think it'll be all right. Not for too long, though.
Good evening, Mrs. Callender.
Where did he go?
Who?
The man.
Did you see him?
No. It was dark. I'd been shopping. I came in the door and I saw someone standing in the hall. The light wouldn't work, and then he came toward me.
And you didn't have time to run to the door?
No. I must have screamed, and he hit me, and then
That's enough. No more talking. I'm going to give you something to make you sleep for a little while.
We'll wait outside, Doctor.
I'm only thankful I was nearby. I have a headache, but it won't be anything worse.
What do you think, Black?
I don't know, sir. Of course, she may know something and isn't aware of what it means to the murderer.
Better have a look about.
I'm going to. You know, whoever it was that waited for her must have been familiar with the house. Probably saw her go out and slipped in to wait. Oh, Marvin?
Yes, sir?
Check on the back door and windows, would you?
Right, sir.
I want to have a look at that hall light.
It's out. No question about that.
Try it again, will you, sir?
Well, I'll be... What did you do?
Refastened the bulb. You won't mind going over to the front door, Commissioner?
Yeah, all right. Yeah?
Yes. Now I'm going to switch off. Can you see me?
Yeah, of course.
My face?
No.
What about now?
Oh, yes, I can see your face now.
Would you open the door, sir?
Oh, what's the devil?
No, it's all right, sir. I'm just trying something. You see, if Mrs. Callender had come in and had not been able to see the man's face, he must have been standing quite a distance away from her. But she said that the electric light wouldn't work.
Yes, that's right.
Well, the light is at least 6 feet inside the doorway. Now, that means she must have walked toward the man, tried the light, and still not attempted to run when he came at her. By then, she would have seen his face.
Almost as though she knew the man.
Possibly, sir. Oh, Moffat, did you find anything?
That back door was open, sir. Unlocked anyway.
That's odd. Any sign of tampering with the lock?
No, sir.
Where did it lead to, the back door?
The garden, sir.
Oh. Any alleyway leading to the front of the house?
No, sir. It's walled in all around.
Footprints in the garden?
Quite a few, sir. You can see where he went over the back wall.
Right. You get casts of them, and then I want the doorknob dusted for prints and this light globe here.
Right, sir.
At the moment, there was nothing to do until we received the results of the footprint and fingerprint test. Commissioner Harkness and I returned to the yard. We had a bite of supper, and then we waited in my office. At 8 o'clock, Moffat brought in the information.
All nice and clean, sir. Can't tell much by the fingerprints, but the shoe casts are pretty good. Size 10, and about 5'11". Approximately 13 stone. Both shoes in good condition. Probably expensive. May have an old wound or a break in his left leg. Right impression is a bit heavier. The man will have a slight limp.
It's all right, Dr. Reed. I feel much better.
You shouldn't see anybody tonight.
It'll only take a moment or two, Doctor.
Yeah, very well.
Mrs. Callender, your husband said that you knew who killed him.
But we've already...
Yes, let us assume that you do know something which to you is unimportant, but to your husband's killer has a death warrant.
Is that why someone tried to kill me this afternoon?
We'll assume that is the reason. Now, When you came in the door after shopping, did you see the man standing in the hall immediately?
No, I don't think so. Not immediately.
You walked to where the light switch was.
Yes, I tried to turn it on.
And then you saw the man.
Yes,
But not his face.
that's right.
It was then about 5:45.
I suppose so. I'm not sure.
It wasn't totally dark outside.
No, but it was dark in the hall.
There's a window in the hall, isn't there?
Yes,
So a trace of light could come through.
it was dark. That's all I can tell you.
Mrs. Callender, would you object if I took your fingerprints?
Why? You don't think that...
Do you mind?
Inspector, this is going too far. One or two questions, perhaps. Mrs. Callender is my patient. I can't allow you to...
I'm sure that Mrs. Callender wants to find the murderer of her husband, Doctor. May I have your prints, Mrs. Callender?
Yes, if you must.
Thank you. Madam.
Just relax your hand, madam. Thank you.
The index and thumb will be enough, Muppet. Both hands.
Right, sir. Thank you. I can wash your hands on this. Here you are, sir.
Thank you. You got the set we took from the light globe?
Yes, sir. Here you are.
A magnifying glass?
Here, sir.
Now, Mrs. Callender, would you mind explaining why you unfastened the light globe in the hall?
I didn't. Why should I do such a thing?
That's what I want to know. Yours are the only prints on it.
Oh, Inspector, what nonsense. The intruder had worn gloves, you know perfectly well.
Yes, Doctor, quite right.
Well, then why are you...
Dr. Reed, do you know why Mr. Callender died?
Of course. Poison. That's why I called the police.
It was Asiatic cholera.
What?
Not at all. Mrs. Callender, would you know anything about that?
No. Oh, no.
The man we're looking for is 5'11". He weighs 13 stone, and he has a slight limp in the left leg.
Just a moment. Mrs. Callender, didn't I meet your husband's partner, Denning, isn't it?
Yes, but they were very good friends. I'm sure...
No. He's a chap who's an amateur biologist. I remember now. He limps, too.
It couldn't be.
I think it could be, Mrs. Callender. I think we may find that somehow he obtained the cholera germs and gave them to your husband.
No.
And that you were both afraid of what the police would find out. So this afternoon, after I'd been to see him, he came over here and you arranged the scene of the attack together.
But, Inspector, have you seen the wound?
How bad is it, Doctor?
Well, it was quite a heavy blow.
How much easier to throw us off the track, then? We can prove that Denning is the man who was here. I think it'll be his prints we found on the back door.
Don't move. Stay exactly where you are.
Speak of the devil, Mr. Denning. You've saved us a great deal of trouble.
Get out of the bed, Myra. We're leaving.
I told you not to come over tonight.
Take a chance. See, White? Come on.
Put down your gun, Denning.
Not an athlete.
All right.
Muppet. That's enough. Stand still.
Only be sure there's no one behind you, Mr. Denning. Much safer. Well, I think we can all go now. Denning and Mrs. Callender were formally charged with murder. At the trial, it was proved that there had been no question of a divorce. That was a story which both Denning and the woman had contrived. The motive was very simple: insurance and what the defendants called love. We never did learn how Denning obtained the cholera germs, but a test tube was found in his miniature laboratory. It contained a culture of his lethal weapon. Mrs. Callender received a life sentence. Denning was hanged. Pursuit. And the pursuit is over.
Pursuit is produced and directed by Elliot Lewis and written by Anthony Ellis. Music was composed and presented by Eddie Dunstetter. Ben Wright stars as Inspector Peter Black with Raymond Lawrence as Sergeant Moffat. Featured in tonight's cast were Sally Cassell, Julian Upton, William Johnstone, and John Sherman. Bob Stevenson speaking. This is the CBS Radio Network.